No, it's just a little, you're just jumping the gun there. Come on, I'm out. Good evening and welcome to the March 11th regular board meeting for the Wenatchee School District. We will open the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. Now you can get up. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Esta junta se lleva a cabo en inglés, pero contamos con servicio de traducción. Si alguien gusta hacer un comentario público o recibir explicaciones en español, por favor indique su necesidad. All right, so we're going to work through the agenda. Board, are there any proposed changes or modifications? All right, hearing none, we will move on to the consent agenda. The items on the consent agenda were sent to the board and posted online last week. The board has had the opportunity to review the materials and ask the superintendent any questions they have about any of the items on the consent agenda. The consent agenda for this meeting includes minutes for the 2/24/25 workshop and the 2/25/25 regular board meeting, vouchers and payroll, personnel report, surplus report, contracts, field trips, January financial report, and resignation and release agreement. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I second that motion.
All right, has been moved by Julie and seconded by Martin. Any discussion? All right, all in favor of adopting the consent agenda?
Aye.
Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, we'll now move on to the citizen comment portion. If any member of the public would like to make a citizen comment, please sign up online 15 minutes before the meeting or complete a citizen comment form. Forms are available at the room's entrance and should be turned into the board secretary, Kim White. Unless translation is required, each comment is limited to 3 minutes. Ms. White will keep a timer that will notify you when your time expires. Individuals that need translation or interpretation will be given 4 minutes to make a comment, plus the time needed to complete translation. Please be aware that the board's role is to receive comments. They will not respond to questions or challenges, and the board silence does not signal agreement or endorsement of the speaker's remarks. Here we have at least one. All right. Alan? Let's look at the camera, Alan. Okay. That was a very quick citizen comment then. Guess that's you, Corey. Special presentations.
Okay, let's roll into the special presentations. Good evening, School Board of Directors and Cabinet members. Thank you so much for the time this evening. As Ron is getting the presentation up there, we're revisiting the conversation about the proposal for Valley Academy to move to the former Columbia Elementary School building. Thanks, Ron. Right. Here we go. Okay, and so this slide is just us revisiting the January 14th board meeting where we first talked about this topic. And so we discussed the need for the change, kind of the why for Valley, and optimizing its learning environment. We also talked about the opportunity that's in front of us with the vacancy at Columbia Elementary. In addition, we talked about the goals for Columbia Elementary, and from the district perspective, the goals is to preserve Columbia Elementary as a community asset, and also to maintain the history, the 100-year history of Columbia Elementary School as well, but also use that to grow programming in the Wenatchee School District. Then we talked about Valley Academy needs, a list of needs that Valley has there that we got from Program Director Shelley Jelsing, who's with us tonight. Thank you, Shelley, for being here. We also talked about the key dates for transition. Also talked about the community and district proposal request that will come next year on the other third of the building that will remain vacant even when Valley takes over. We also talked about current Valley property and then the necessary steps for us moving forward, which included this presentation coming back to the board. Okay. One of the requests from the board was an understanding and an additional look at the budget reductions for this school year, the 24-25 school year, and the impact of the closure of Columbia. So we have, interestingly enough, this is the same slide that we showed about a year ago, March 12th, 2024. And this table shows the budgetary savings for the district with the closure of Columbia Elementary School. And just reiterating to the board and the community, the district has been able to realize the savings through this school year. In addition, we have kept up with the maintenance, the grounds of the building as promised that Columbia would continue to be a community asset while the school district used the time to plan the most impactful use of the building for the school district as a whole. And our maintenance and operation team has done a phenomenal job cleaning the building, painting, and preparing the building for the next occupants. And so as you can see in this table here, that the first line speaks to our elementary administrators as an area of reduction. One of the things that happens when you close a school is all areas are impacted in some way. And so we had our administrators listed there. And we were able to do this reduction through attrition and the moves of our Lincoln admin team. The next line shows our classroom provisional staff. And that term provisional employee refers to any employee who occupies a teaching or other non-supervisory certificated position during the first 3 years of employment. Provisional employees may be subject to non-renewal or employment contracts. And so this line really charts the number of provisional classroom teachers leaving the system due to shifts and movement of Columbia teachers entering our remaining elementary schools. So I just kind of wanted to go line by line and remind everybody where we were here. The third line is our non-classroom provisional staff, such as our Palm specialists. So these are teachers of PE or fitness, art, library, and music. Also our intervention specialists and our counselors who will be moving in our system, and our Columbia staff as they move into other remaining elementary schools as well. So that shifting that took place there. Let's see, then we have custodial staff. Line 4 references our 2 building custodians. They moved to other buildings in the district vacated by retirements or resignations. Then we have our office staff. So line 5 describes a reduction in our office staff, such as attendance secretaries, office managers, and more, who are also assigned to new locations based on retirements and or resignations. Nutrition services, line 6, who were transferred to other positions vacated through resignations and retirements as well. And then finally, our 1/2 of our general education paraeducator. So in summary, this table shows the overall cost of each position that was realized in the closure of Columbia. And as we remember and know and realize from this school year, the budget reductions for 24-25, the $8.9 million are big and massive. And so we feel that impact. But as we revisit this, we also wanted to discuss what are the additional costs potentially of moving Valley into Columbia. So we'll move on to that slide next. And one of the things that I wanted to share with the board and our community tonight is the beauty of the shift is that we are moving one school into another school. So this is a great thing. So as we walked through the building, and there was a group of us that did this building walkthrough, including Shelley was there with us. We also had Sean and Heidi. We had Ron. We also had Brian Brocky and then Tom Cooey, our director of security, safety and security. So we had the full group as we were working through. And so as you look at this list, there's literally no budget impact or necessary changes in these places here, the administrative offices, our libraries, the classrooms, the music room, the playgrounds, staff room. Most of safety and security, we do have some things that we're going to show on the next slide that we will have to budget for. The gym, the bathrooms, the parking lots, our staff restrooms, the copy room, the stage area, and the technology of the building are all intact and ready for a new occupant. So that is a great thing. We do have some things, though, that we want to share. And I just want to reiterate that there is no remodel of Columbia that will occur as Valley moves in. Our maintenance and operations team has done a magnificent job, as I mentioned, cleaning the building, last summer, and our painters have made the inside not only look fresh, but quite new. But here are a few things that need to be addressed and will require some funding from the 24-25 budget that will help ready that building for Valley Academy. One of those is the signage. So we're working to find a balance between new signage for Valley Academy students and also remembering and honoring the 100-year history of Columbia. We were going to do some retrofitting of the old monument sign or the current monument sign that is there. And unfortunately, there has been new code that has moved into place, and the sign will not allow for us to do that. So we'll need a whole new sign there. And we plan to remember and honor Columbia on the signage as well. So Diana's been working on some of the mock-ups for that, and we have a plan. Custodial. We will also need to increase the amount of time necessary for a Valley Academy custodian. The space is much bigger, and it has more areas to clean, such as gyms, cafeterias, music rooms. So we'll be shifting from a 0.2 FTE to either a 0.8 or a 1.0. We're still working with our Director of Maintenance and Operations on what that number will look like. In addition, as we toured the building, we realized that the clocks are in dire need of being replaced and upgraded, as most of our other district buildings have, and that will have a cost of about $15,000. The fire alarm is also a place that we want to update and make sure that it's on par with our other buildings. And this has been budgeted through our technology department and was part of a planned upgrade as well. So that one is really not a budget issue, but it is something that we had planned. And then, of course, moving costs. There are necessary fees that we need to pay in order to move a building from one space to another. And those are the significant pieces for for Valley to move into Columbia there. And overall, we feel like this is not much of a price tag for a school move, considering the former Valley Academy will also have some opportunities and options for us to receive additional funds, potentially through leasing or selling. And yeah, so that's a summary of the necessary dollar amounts. Okay, and the next few slides are repeats from the January 14th meeting, but I think that it's important for us to go through them as well. The first slide here is the key dates for transitions for the Valley move. So there's stakeholder communication that's happening throughout this entire timeframe. Shelley's done a great job of engaging her school community and stakeholders, and still does through some of the planned meetings that she has already. And you can see here that where we are, we have the January meeting, the January 14th meeting. We also had February where we did some needs analysis and some more work from the school district side of things. Today's board update. And then we have in March also, there'll be additional planning. There's a lot of planning that's going around the addition of 9th and 10th grade at Valley. And then there'll be a staff walkthrough that Shelley's planning with her staff as well. April through June will be Shelley and her team continuing to refine the planning and the move, as well as some additional promotion and registration on our end as well. And then from packing to moving to unpacking and opening. So very much an oversimplification of the process, but a brief outline nonetheless. The next slide talks about the other part of the building. So we assume and are planning for Valley Academy to take roughly 2/3 of the Columbia space there, and utilizing the gym and the cafeteria and the music space as well. But there'll be roughly 1/3 of classes that will be remaining. And so next year, once Valley is settled and the school is operating well, then we hope to announce for an opening for a community or a district proposals for the remaining Columbia Elementary space. And so we kind of have outlined a very broad idea of what that would look like. We would open that proposal window. That proposal window would close. We would review and have a process to go over the proposals, obviously making sure that Valley student safety is of the utmost importance in this process. Then we would announce the new occupants of Columbia's West Wing, if we end up referring to that. And then we would go through some contract negotiations and have a chance to remodel as needed to fit and accommodate who our new community or district partner would be. If that is outside the district, that would be something that would be at the tenant's cost. And then there would be the new occupancy and the rental of space, which would allow for additional funds for capital projects and improvements. Okay. And then for us to look at and consider, the school board will evaluate the value of the property for the district and weigh options to maintain, lease, and or sell. And these are the things that we would have to look at: our legal and government property guidance. We'd need an evaluation of the property, which will be quite interesting. Prepare for a lease or a sale, work on gathering those documents, determine the sales or lease strategy, list and show the property, and then hopefully work on closing those documents. Again, an oversimplification of the process, but one that we want to have all the pieces to nonetheless. Recommendation time. It is the recommendation of the Wenatchee School District to relocate Valley Academy to the former Columbia Elementary building to increase student access to an improved learning environment. We wanted this plan to be very transparent, not only with the school board, but with the community. And tonight we're asking the school board to approve the school district moving forward with the move of Valley to Columbia. And it looks like we have that on a little bit later after our softball students show up, which may be a moment, and then after our budget update as well too. So we'll move on to some action a little bit later, but wanted to have some time to see if there were any questions, concerns, or celebrations that we want to talk about today as our 4-member board, or if there's anything that you would like the district to continue to bring back for information for you all. We will continue to partner with Shelley throughout the process and help support her and her team as they navigate the changes that could be potentially ahead.
Just so it sounds like, assuming we go forward, next year is when we talk about moving someone else in for the other third for the West Wing.
Yes.
And then what we do with the existing Valley building. Is that right? So we're not,
Yeah.
we're not going to cram that into this year as well.
No, yeah, I think we may have been overzealous when we were originally thinking about that, but we really want to make sure that Valley has the entirety of the building to find out where their programs fit and where their needs are going to be accommodated. And then once they're settled and feel like, hey, this is where we're doing things, this works for our students kinder through 10th grade, then we'll open it up to the community and the other district for those proposals, giving us a little bit of time. Yep. Yeah, thanks for that clarification, Tucker.
And then I had just just like back of the envelope, about 70 grand. Is that what we're based on? I add all the numbers up and the 0.6 custodian, I just
Gotcha.
round numbered based on the custodian in the previous slide that we cut. So I just,
Okay.
Is that about?
I think you're right. Yeah.
Okay. And we're just going to work that into next year's budget.
Yeah, we will actually work the signage and the clocks and the moving costs into this year's budget.
Okay.
And then next year's budget, we will have the updated staffing and FTE.
Great.
Yep.
Thanks.
Great clarification. Thank you.
So to that point,
Mhm.
I have here about 35, say on the low end to about 50 one-time cost.
Mhm.
And then the custodian would be a continuous
Yes.
increase. Okay. The last presentation included more of the needs, which included furniture.
Yes.
So is that off the table and that's not an expense we're going to incur?
Correct. Yeah. So Shelley's staff will have the option when they do their walkthrough, they'll have the option of looking at the furniture and materials that are in the classroom already left over from Columbia, and they can decide on what they'd like to keep there, or they can bring their current furniture over. So they'll have a couple of different options. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. And I'm thinking about long-term potential costs to an aging building.
Mhm.
That we potentially don't necessarily may or may not have at the current Valley building. HVAC seems to be the most common.
Sure does.
High cost system that typically goes out. What is the standing of the building? I mean, looking down the road, what
Right.
can be a big expense?
That is a great question. When we did the survey and study, and if you look particularly at Columbia, it has a lot of the ICOS nomenclature is good, fair, poor. A lot of Columbia still landed in the good area. There were a few places where there's some fair and poor, but really the roof was one of the bigger concerns. And so I believe two of those issues have been addressed, and there are still going to be some roof issues that'll be there. But HVAC is always a concern with aging buildings, but for the most part, it's holding up very well.
And then just an observation from the last time we had this subject on the agenda, it seems like there's a good amount of our community is not aware that Valley Academy is a public school. I know, Diana, you follow social media, and I don't know if you picked up on that as well. There's a misconception that it's a private school. And so I think, we're increasing capacity, I'm assuming, by moving into a bigger building,
Mhm.
an opportunity to promote the school. And put it out there saying, hey, this is part of Wenatchee School District, because as we move forward, looking at bonds, future levies and whatnot, it's a little bit different than your traditional brick and mortar school, right?
Mhm.
So I think this is a great opportunity for the school district to advertise this gem.
Yeah, absolutely. Shelley, do you want to, whoa, I just turned myself off. Sorry. Do you want to say anything kind of in summary of what Valley does offer our community just as an opportunity right now? Hey, you're live.
All right, I'm live.
Yeah.
That's actually a really great point. I think that I talk with multiple families and people that don't realize that Valley Academy is a part of Wenatchee School District. And it doesn't cost them anything to come to Valley Academy. It just looks different than what your normal traditional brick and mortar building looks like. We have most of our students in building a couple of days a week, and they do the remaining work that they do at home with their parents. So it's a parent partnered program, and it is a part of Wenatchee School District, is a great opportunity for kids. And I think that we serve our kids very well. We have a really amazing staff with a variety of options for our kids when it comes to electives, as well as core, depending on what the parents would like to work on at home and what our families would like them to do at school. So it really is a great place to be, and I really am lucky to be there. One of the things that I wanted to say, as you guys were talking about kind of Valley Academy and what we're doing, is just, I think a celebration is that meeting with all the stakeholders. I met with the students in our leadership committee. I met with our staff, and I met with our teachers, and they were all on board and ready and excited to move to Columbia if we get that opportunity. It's hard. Change is hard. It's hard for all of us, but our families and our school community is ready, and we know that we can serve our community well. So we're excited for that.
Shelley, what is your current enrollment, and with a potential move, what would be the increase of capacity?
So we are a very unique building. Currently, we have 11 to 12 staff members, but when you look at our FTE, as far as the time that our staff stay there, it depends on who they are and if they're there at 0.4, 0.6, 0.8, or 1.0. So that means that they range from just a couple of days a week to full-time per week. We try and have as many people on staff on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, because of the fact that that is when pretty much the bulk of our students do come for more time, is on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So we have a lot of staff on those days, the bulk of that, but then on the other days, we might be running a little bit slim. So currently, it just rolls with our online program and our in-person program. It ranges really around 220 to 230. We've had an increase in the last month, and we've had a lot of interest. It's not for everybody, but it can really work for some students and some families based on just needing a smaller environment with a different need than what they would see in the traditional everyday brick and mortar building. Did I answer your question? Was there one more part to that question?
Yeah, the potential for growth if the school was moved to a bare space.
Yes, as we're moving into a larger space, I think there is potential for growth. Certainly, at some points, we might need to add here and there just in order to have the types of options for our students that we will need to have. Currently, we are we're about 24 students per FTE, like when you're looking at your overall model of teacher versus student ratio based on the fact that we have our monthly progress reviews that we're required to do for Washington State learning or written student learning plans. Because we need to meet with each student to make sure that they're doing their work at home as well as their work at school. So we have, with the time in class, the number of students they have in class, plus the number that they have on their written student learning plans and monthly progress, it equals about that and that time and that alternative learning education experience. So, but there is room for growth, absolutely. And we're excited to look at 9th and 10th. And I know that we have many of our current families that are really excited about continuing in what we do and the type of education that we offer.
And I would just echo, Shelley, nice job. Thank you.
Mhm.
I would just echo that the growth for Valley, we want to make sure that it's intentional and careful and well thought out. And so that we can continue to offer the programming that we have in the past. So Shelley and I often talk about what growth looks like at Valley and maintaining the schedule that she and her teachers and parents collaborate on to create is very important. But we're excited about the 9th and 10th grade option and massaging kind of as Shelley moves her staff around to accommodate that, what that looks like. And then we're hoping that maybe this first year we might have 10 to 12 ninth graders and maybe 5 to 7 10th graders as we start off. And we know that that will probably grow as more of our middle school families at Valley realize that that's actually an option. So yeah, very good. Thanks, Shelley.
Yeah.
So glad Shelley could be here. Other
So,
questions? Yeah.
Yeah, so more comment than question. So I appreciate the information because I know the questions I had were what is the cost and what I was concerned about the potential remodel we would need, even though it was moving one school from another. So it's positive to see that really fewer changes than I probably even anticipated would need to be made to make that work. And that makes a lot of sense. And I appreciate the explanation, given the different learning styles, that we're still going to keep the staff cost-cutting measures with the exception of maybe the janitorial, at least in this initial in the initial phases of this, and still have the potential to grow the program without a significant cost increase. Because that was one of my other concerns was why, if we're growing it, aren't we going to need to add more people? And because of what I've understood now is because of the nature of the program, it doesn't sound like it requires that as much to operate. And then I think the ultimate hope is that if we grow this program, it's not taking from our existing BEA students, it's actually bringing new ones in. So we'll be able to fund that growth through the additional offerings. So I appreciate the presentation. It makes kind of a lot more sense to me. And it looks like you want to jump in.
Thanks, Julie. Appreciate that.
Common misconception I feel like I've heard or seen on Facebook or other social media has to do around the fact that, oh, well, Valley kids don't go to school full time, so they're just at 0.5. That is not true. So when you look at alternative learning ed, we have 28 hours in our written student learning plan, but that doesn't mean they do all of those hours on site. So when you're looking at that number of hours, we still receive that full funding for a student, but they're just not on site all the time. So if you think about some of the idle time that our students might spend in a classroom doing some of that work and just sitting in a desk, they're able to do that at home. They're able to do that with parent support. They're able to do it in a different location while still receiving full funding. And so I think that was one of those things that I think that was a misconception, is that, oh, well, they're not a full-time student in the Wenatchee School District. They are. And they do a really great job and have really high levels of learning in what they do at home and at school.
Awesome. Thanks, Shelley. Other thoughts or comments? All right. Well, thank you very much. We appreciate that. Shelley, thanks for joining us. I think,
Give them a couple
yes.
more minutes.
I think what we'll do is when I talk to Coach Edmondson, he said that they were going to come after their practice, which usually ends about 6:30. So we'll go ahead and if it's comfortable with everyone, we'll jump into our budget presentation. And if we are at a good spot when they get here, then we can pause and we'll go from there. So sound okay, President Jackson?
Sounds great.
Okay, let's do it. Let's jump on in here. Oh,
They put them on the 20. No, fooled us. Ghosts.
Somebody left.
Somebody left. Like, no, the other way.
they're out of here. Okay. All right. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and get started. And as Ron pulls up that slide deck, oh, it's on one. Okay, there it is. Thanks, Ron. Tonight, we want to recognize and thank our community and the school district stakeholders for their unwavering support of the school district through the recent levy passing in February. And just acknowledge that. So a huge thank you. With the passage of that levy, we are truly having a different conversation this evening about budget reduction. So again, thank you. We will jump into some slides that are going to look very familiar. This is our milestones for decision making and gathering input, and it basically outlines our budget timeline for the school year. And so on one hand, it's kind of hard to believe it's March already and that we're moving so quickly through our school year. We're a little bit more than halfway through our budgeting process as well. So at this point, we are, as you look on the timeline and the continuum there, we are watching eagerly and waiting patiently for our legislators to do our work and potentially wrap up their long session on April 27th. And so that's where we are in our timeline. You can see that nestled right after replacement EP&O levy there. So it's a good spot for us to be. And another slide that we've seen, our budget reduction target. And again, we are talking about the 25-26 school year, and our budget reduction target is up to 2.5 million. And the areas and the amounts of reduction the amounts and areas of reduction are listed below. We have tried to keep that consistent since we've announced that number in December with our staff. And so looking at staffing and our staffing to enrollment is one area that we'll be engaged in. Also attrition, carefully reviewing those retiring and resigning from our system. Also looking at unfilled positions and/or positions filled throughout the school year where there are cost savings. Our materials costs, our materials, supplies, and operating costs, looking deeply at our contracts, looking at copy costs, looking at building budgets and all the things therein. And then also kind of as a contrast, where are we looking at growth? And Julie, you just brought that up with our last Valley presentation. So what are the areas that we're looking at for growth in our school district? And then moving on. Another slide that we've seen before is our birth rate slide. And so looking at when we talk about declining enrollment, the two things that we've been talking about most recently is our birth rates and also graduating larger classes than are coming in as a byproduct here of the birth rate. So our birth rate data shown here for the projections in our 24-25 kindergarten data. So this year we looked at 2019 birth rate data until we had stronger data from our registration process. If you look at the 2020 data, which are our kindergarten students for next year, you can see that there's a 71 student dip in the 2020 birth rate data, signaling a smaller kindergarten class. Now, as we know, Sean is very aware of that, and in his projections, he's looking at those opportunities. But we'll have stronger data available once our registration process is complete, and registration is happening. It is, Diana had a push today, so we appreciate that. If you continue to look, though, at the birth rates, there are some very positive trends as we move to 2021, 2022, and 2023. It's still declining, but it's declining at a rate of six potential students, 9 potential students, and 9 potential students respectively. So is that signaling a floor in our enrollment decline? We know that it's not necessarily, because we still have larger graduating classes that are moving through our system, but it could have an impact. Okay, and the next slide here is one that you saw January 2021 in the annual enrollment and preliminary forecasting workshop. And you can see here that the green dot indicates this year's enrollment data, as well as the subsequent. Are they orange? I think they're orange.
Yes.
Yes.
Good job.
Okay, they are orange dots. Subsequent orange dots have our 4-year projections that again, that Sean presented in January. So we can predict that the numbers of students leaving our system as we graduate larger classes, or students who enroll in Running Start and Open Doors program, and we can plan for it. And that is exactly the work that we're doing. So our work with the reductions will be annual, as long as we have the enrollment decline trends continuing. And in addition to that, the passing of our levy will ensure the preservation of the student experience and the opportunities afforded to our students in their PK-12 journey during that time. So these are all slides that you have. Too many buttons to push. I keep turning myself off. So these are all slides that I know. No touchy. All right. These are all slides that you've seen and our staff has seen as well. So nothing necessarily new here. The budget reduction factors that we continue to look at. Again, declining enrollment, the actual and the projected. We know that enrollment drives 75% of our budget. We also know that, again, I say it all the time, is that our graduating classes are larger than our incoming classes. Watching closely inflationary costs as we see them outpacing the funding, not only in our salaries and benefits, but in our insurance premiums and in those materials, supplies, and operating costs, those MSOCs. The EP&O replacement levy passed in February, so we can say that and celebrate that. And then again, we're waiting on the legislative journey. I do want to share the budget communication process and the things that have taken place. We know that our board budget committee meetings take place almost monthly. Same with our association budget committees. We try to pair those together throughout the month. On December 4th, we had a budget/levy update for all of our certificated staff that was also shared on our website. And really that started and indicated the budget levy presentations for all departments and all school staff at that time. We also instituted our weekly budget bites during January and February, right before the levy. We had a stakeholder email update late February that also had a stakeholder survey in late February. And Diana and I have been working on answering those budget questions as they come in. So it's been a really positive process there to get some stakeholder feedback. And I really want to honor the work that has happened in the Wenatchee School District over the last 2 years. It's been a heavy budgetary process, as you all know as board members. You've experienced that as well. It's been very challenging to every single staff member, to our stakeholders, to our system. We've done a lot of heavy lifting. I'm very proud of that work because it was necessary and it was needed, and we did not kick the can down the road. As you know, that is always an option. We took care of what we needed to take care of. So the $4.4 million that were reduced in the 23-24 school year, and the massive 8.9 million in reductions for this school year. It is no easy lift, even 2.5 million, but it sure feels a lot different than some of the other work. So not that it's a celebration, but we do have some sharing that the estimated savings here. So this is our budget reduction plan. We have the budget reduction areas, the estimated savings, and then the status of the work. We kind of wanted to let you know where we are in this process. So I'll go through my notes here where we talk about each line. So line 1 is that restructuring of the district office, as well as our cabinet district administrators. So we had a rare opportunity earlier in this school year to do some reshuffling with our classified positions, which ultimately led to a reduction of 1 position here in this building. And so not only is that a reduction for next year, but it's one that we'll be able to realize this entire year as well, because it happened so early. We also have the rare chance that 2 cabinet leadership positions are retiring. So Mike and Heidi, we will miss you dearly, but we are excited for your next journey. And then we have combined these positions and redistributed the bulk of the work throughout other administrators, resulting in a $345,000 savings. And I also want to mention that this slide deck and those numbers, we had them ready before the decision to hire Eric Anderson as our Executive Director of Learning, Teaching, and Schools, and know that we're going to bring back an athletic director position. So that impacts that number a little bit, but we'll be able to share what that looks like at a later date. And then line 2, staffing and budgeted positions internally filled. This is an interesting line as well. So I want to unpack it a little bit. Every year we have situations where people are hired internally during the school year after the budget is created. So whether that's June, July, August, or we have some positions that are open for quite a long time before they're filled. Last year, with 62 staff members reduced from our entire system, you can imagine that this happened a few times. So sometimes people will take on a new position and they're still in their previous coded position. And then there are folks that are hired, like I said, later in January and November. This is very granular information. And often we would see savings like this happen at the year-end closeout as it shows up as an added fund balance. But the work that is happening this year is us being proactive and reconciling much of this long before the budget closes. And so this number will change annually, and it's pretty large this year. So we're going to take advantage of that, and that work is already done. So that does not mean that we have anyone that is going to be in a situation of losing a position. This has already happened. So we're excited about that. Line 3 is our MSOC. Those materials, supplies, and operating costs will further decrease this year as we looked closely at our contracts. Technology is one that we looked at closely. Learning and teaching is another area that we looked at closely. We did some cross-pollination of those two departments as well, and found some areas where we can reduce. We'll also be looking at building budgets and other district budgets as well to realize that. And then line 4 is really where we're decreasing in our staffing numbers based on enrollment. And as you remember, last year we reduced 62 positions in the district. That had an impact on each building, and class sizes have increased, and we know that. So we're reducing where we can this year, but we also want to balance that high impact of the high class sizes long-term as well. So we are actually thrilled that this is where our budget reduction plan has landed this year, and excited to, not excited. It is the work, though. It is the work. And so, so just excited to share that with the board and a few other items.
Can I interrupt you?
Of course.
Can you
Yeah.
better explain maybe how this relates to the 8.9 that we were targeting for reductions this year? Because some of this looks like it's in process. Some of this looks like it's doing better than anticipated. So is this a 2.53 million we're going to beat budget with this year, or does that mean we saved actually 10 million this year, or is this the target?
Gotcha. I
Do
see.
you see where I'm going with that?
I see where you're going with that. What I can share, and Sean may need to step in a little bit here, but what I can share is the most important line I think that you're getting at is the $1 million related to budgeting positions internally filled, right? And so what is actually happening is, instead of us realizing a savings at the end of the budget, like next in October, we're actually on top of that work now, and we're realizing those savings earlier. So we're pinpointing where it is, and we're acknowledging that and using it as budget reduction. So I don't know if it actually falls into us saving that much money this year.
So does that mean then that we're able to target a lower reduction for next year?
That is the plan. Yes. Well said. Is that okay, Sean?
I wouldn't mind having a go at it, because I think that's something that take 2 years, year 0 this year, year +1 next year. we have a budget for each year and we'll have a target cost reduction, let's say, from one budget to the other.
Yes.
Then in year zero, things change. We have positions that are vacant and never filled because we couldn't recruit somebody. We have cost savings and we'll have a budget variance this year. If Ron, can you put that last one back?
Oh, here I
Page
can.
9? Yeah. The very last one, it's page 9 on the, at the bottom of it, yeah. Just, yeah. Sorry. I'll
All
keep
the
going
things,
anyway.
yeah.
Because I think, you say complete for the cabinet and DO restructuring and for what you call budgeted positions internally filled. And I think what normally people will compare a budget to actual or revised for the prior year. And that's what's really happening in the trenches with real people and real dollars. But when you talk about that 2.5, I think that actually is structured as a budget versus a budget. And that saving is going to be different from actual in year zero to budget in year one. So I'm assuming that the 345,000 will be to a considerable extent achieved as a favorable variance in this year. And if that is the case, and we have the same target, the actual reduction in people and expenditure next year will be less than the full amount if you compare real world to budget world. That make sense? Yeah.
Well
And the
said,
same
Mark.
with, and the same with the 1 million. And the reason I grabbed that is I think it's important to know that there are 3 columns when you measure variances. There's a budget, and then there's what really happened after the budget, and then there's next year's budget. And there's a tendency in the public sector to compare budget to budget, which can blind you a little bit as to what's really going on. So what I wanted to make sure is that I understood that correctly, that complete means actually that actions and decisions have been taken. The district is already realizing some of the savings. And then the others that are, then the reducing staff to align with enrollment, that's a future change that would occur with attrition. And as you say, that's your target. You can think you do it with attrition. And so that does mean that it's a smaller cut in the real world than you originally anticipated. And it all should mean that we should begin the year with a slightly higher reserve than we originally budgeted and be in a sounder position that way. So Sean, is that correct? Okay.
Well said. Well said. Other thoughts? This point? Okay. I still have, Ron, do you mind just keeping that up for a sec? Okay, awesome. I want to just, I also have just a couple more slides. Yeah, perfect. Nope, I'm going backwards. Okay, perfect. So just want to, opportunities for growth. I just want to be clear with our board and our community that we are still looking at every angle for opportunities for growth. The largest opportunity this year obviously is working with our Valley Academy and the shift to Columbia, but planning incrementally and intentionally is also very important. In addition, there are other places where we are considering growth, such as creating programming that offers many of the benefits of Running Start to our high school students who are staying on campus. We know that our student enrollment decline takes into consideration the birth rates and the graduation of larger classes, but we have other areas that can be considered for new student populations. And I thought, just realize that that's important when we talk about budget reductions. Also, what are these areas of growth? Also want to signal just a conversation around federal funding. There's a great deal of uncertainty when it comes to a variety of items at the national level and how these decisions impact the state and ultimately impact our school district. It's very important that we as a school district are watching and listening very carefully to what the interpretation of these actions are at the state level, and then as it rolls down to the district level as well. So one of those items that is kind of has some uncertainty or some question around it is federal funding for school districts. Now, we believe it to be true that it would take an act of Congress to change the current funding structure that is based on law. However, we are also working on scenarios of our own to be prepared to be aware and be ready to respond if something were to change. So we would just want to ensure you that we are paying attention, we're being intentional, and intentional about the potential impact on the school district. So just want to state that as we're talking about budgets, we also need to look at all of our budgets and where that funding comes from. So yeah, with that, I'm done with our presentation on the budget. And any questions, comments, or celebrations, or if there's anything that I can research and bring back to the board at a later time.
I know these are challenging times for the district, from the for the last 3 years and the upcoming year. But one of the things that caught my eye in the financial report, the January financial report, was that our current fund balance is at, our minimum fund balance, which is 5%, would be at 6.6, right, Sean? And our operating budget for 1 month is 9.7 million. So currently we're sitting on a bucket of money that doesn't support 1 month of operations. So with all the unknowns, with the federal funding and considering the financial state right now of the district, I would like to see us positioned in a better and a little more cushion there, because these numbers are scary when we don't have money to run for a full month on a reserve. It seems concerning. So I appreciate the effort that that the cabinet has taken, and kudos to our staff and our cabinet for seeing the potential where this next year's reduction won't have so much of an impact with our current staff.
Thank you. Thank you. And well said, especially in the climate of districts across the state. And some districts are asking for help from the state and dollars in advance. And that is something that they're able to do, but it's not a position that we would like to be in. So.
Yeah, and in a recent article, our neighbor across the river, they've been shaving off a little bit from their reserves to be able to sustain to some degree, with obviously cuts coming next year. I think we need to set ourselves to be more in that situation where if there is a need, there is some room for wiggle there.
I appreciate the conversation, and it's something that Sean and I have been talking about as well. So I think it's a conversation that we would like to bring up with the board in the future, and maybe have a workshop or even our August workshop retreat time be spent around that. I like it, financial stability.
Yep. Actually, Maria, I'm really glad that you brought that up, because when you look at reserves in organizations, 5% is a 20th, 8% would be 1 month. And I think I would like some research, some comparisons and advice come back to the board on what would be prudent. When you talk about across the river at Eastmont, I saw that they said their reserve was 8%, not 5%, but I don't know whether that's their unassigned reserve or their total reserve. So, you know, we've had 5% for a long time. I think it might be a good idea now with volatility to ask ourselves, you know, is that a prudent amount? And then I kind of want to go on a little bit further than that. Sometimes it's difficult to make a change when you do it in one big step. And I know it sounds kind of theoretical, but include the idea that you would, over 3 years, set yourself a target. It just would be a target that would go 5, 6, 7, 8, if you thought 8 was a good number, or if you think 5, then you don't need to do anything. But I would like to have that looked at in that sense. And then the other comment that I would make, which is kind of a motive for looking at our reserves, I'm very appreciative of the fact that the district is following law and constitution, as the superintendent of public instruction advises us, but also not being blind to the possibility that outcomes could be different from current law and that the situation could be highly volatile. So I appreciate you opening up and just simply saying that everybody in this community needs to be aware of this, and that you are eyes open, looking ahead.
Thank you both. Are we good? Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for the time for both presentations. I appreciate that. Softball's in the house. I love it. So let's move to our softball presentation. Throughout this year, we've been asking students and staff, particularly around levy funded programs and opportunities, to join us here at the school board. It's been super fun. It's been great. Tonight, we've asked our softball team to be here. So thank you. Practice just got over. Is that right? Thank you so much for carving the time out of your evening, as you probably want to get home and eat and change and all that fun stuff. But we appreciate you here, being here tonight. And I think we have a few students that want to share their thoughts with us today about how fast pitch and opportunities have impacted them as students. So we'd love to invite you to the podium and share with us, if you will. You can go as a team if you want, as solidarity and support one another. So there you go. Thanks so much. Thank you so much for bringing them. We appreciate that. Thank you.
Is already on? Okay. So as a team so far, we really appreciate the softball field. It has made practice a lot easier because there's a lot less risks that come with our new field. We were constantly having to worry about like potholes in the temp field. There were a lot of rocks in the dirt when we tried to like slide, dive, or whatever, we'd get all like cut up and everything. So we just appreciate the like a lot of the safety that comes with this, and just being able to like say that we have like a really nice field now. After a long time of just not having almost anything, it feels amazing to actually have something to call our own as a softball team.
Thank you.
It also just makes everything a lot easier, and being able to host games and not having to like sign up last minute to get places at like Walla Walla, or have to go all the way over to Eastmont to do like home games and everything. So I think it just brings the whole team together and makes our opponents even just like think better of us too, because it shows us that our like school district has like a level of like support and respect that they'd love to show us. And so this like not only makes us feel better, but it makes all the other teams that are coming from other places feel a lot more comfortable as well.
I love it. Thank you so much for sharing. And I would love to ask you a couple questions if we could. So go ahead, Julie.
Can I ask you?
Yeah.
Did you notice any difference in girls trying out for the sport this spring?
I feel like yes.
Yeah,
There were a lot more freshmen this year, especially just because I feel like they think it's a lot safer and feels a lot more comforting knowing that we have that area to call our own. Well, originally we didn't. And so I feel like originally they saw that we weren't properly like taken care of at first, and they were like, ugh, I don't want to be in that situation kind of thing. So I think people like it a lot more.
I can relate to that because my kids, when they show up to the schools that have recently been reconstructed that play the high school sports, they're like, our school doesn't have money. So now I drive by that facility, and it's a beautiful facility. So I'm glad that finally we get to make the impression to others. But, I continue to feel sorry that you had to wait so long to get it. But I'm glad that it turned out as nice as it did. And I'm hopeful that it is good for building the program in the future.
If there aren't any other questions, I would love to hear, one of the things that is important, even though we're past the levy, we still want to hear how extracurricular activities and sports like fast pitch impact you as individuals and potentially your student experience. So if you don't mind, if the three of you could share, what does fast pitch mean to you and the opportunity to play fast pitch or softball in general? Yeah. Thank you.
So I'm a freshman this year. So I've played fast pitch, I think, for 7 years. So it's obviously been a while. And I'm finally was really excited that I can finally play in high school and get introduced to all these new people that have also played for a while. And I get to do it on this really nice field with all my friends, and just basically all these new experiences, because kind of like what Addie was saying, going to all the schools, when we go to away games, all the facilities are obviously way nicer just because have more money, but it's finally nice to have a field that we can be that has the W for Wenatchee, and they can say that, oh, this is our high schools, and it's really exciting to know that we get to play more home games this year. So
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. That's great.
I'm a senior, and will be my first and last year. I believe the new field and fast pitch will bring everybody together. It's just a great environment. We have all the equipment we need, and it just makes everything so much easier to get and faster. And it's really nice. And a lot of people try out a lot more.
So this is your first season and your last season. So this is the first time you've played fast pitch
So
for
this is like first time on the field.
first time on the field. Gotcha. Thank you for that clarification. I was like, wait a minute here. So, okay, that's great. So how cool that it's here for your senior year. Like, I mean, it's a long time coming, but that's pretty special. Yeah.
For me, like extracurriculars like this, definitely bring like a lot of like de-stressor and light into my life and everything. So being able to see like the seniors and everything that didn't have a field last year, the last couple years, you know, were constantly worrying about where we'd practice, where they'd like practice next or whatever, being able just to see them finally being like, oh my gosh, this actually happened. It's kind of like watching kids open presents on Christmas. It's like whole, just, it's like a really just like big, good feelings and everything. It makes you see them and it just makes you feel good kind of thing. And being able to like be around people that are constantly excited to play and everything, especially in like extracurriculars, is something that I definitely think people just look forward to if they're having a hard time and everything. And it's definitely helped me a lot when I've been having hard times or stressing out about or like academics and everything. And so I think sports play more parts in people's life than people think they do. It's more than just a game. It's more than just like, oh, we won this, we lost this. It's definitely just a huge part of people's lives where they feel like they can be somewhere safe and like express themselves. And so being able to have those comforting places like our new field and everything, I definitely think it brings a level of comfort in people's lives that some people don't have. And so I think that extracurriculars are extremely important when it comes to that kind of stuff.
Very well said. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for warming our hearts. It's nice for us to be able to see this field come to fruition. It's been a long time coming and a lot of work. And so great. I do have to just add that last night I saw an amazing thing at the spring sports kickoff. I saw the softball team and the other teams move a mattress down the gym. And Addie, you were moving. I mean, when you were running back, I was like, holy cow, she is moving. So that was a new experience for me. They'd have to run and jump on the mattress and it would move down the floor. Then you'd have to come and tag your relay partner and then they would have to run and jump on the mattress and move it down the floor. And that was quite exciting. So thank you for that. That was fun. Also, we're excited for the first game next week, Tuesday, the 18th, ribbon cutting event. So we are very excited to celebrate you all and our coaches and everything softball next week. So thank you. We appreciate you. And I feel like we need to give them a round of applause. So thanks for taking time out of your evening.
Is that back to me?
Yes.
You're done. Yeah, did it. You can turn it back off. They're supposed to be off. All right, so no discussion for today. So we're gonna head straight into our action for tonight. I move to authorize district administration to continue their effort to plan for and pursue the movement of Valley Academy into the vacant Columbia Elementary building. Do I have, does anyone want to move that?
Well, I'll
So-
second it.
That's
You moved.
I moved it, okay. I'm
Kim.
reading it from Kim, so I guess, yeah, seconded, thank you. So moved by me and seconded by Maria. Any discussion?
I'll just add that we talked about this in the budget committee meeting, and this is a decision that I understand doesn't necessarily require board approval to do this. But we felt like it was appropriate to have the board approve it because it just signifies that we are all on board moving this together with this plan so that it does truly rest with all of us. So I thought this was a good idea to have us do action for this. Yeah.
I appreciate that, Julie. I appreciate with budget committee, the team for continuing the appreciation for the history of Columbia. You know, there was a lot of thought put into this, the financial aspect of it. It's super challenging having to close one school. And then, less than a year later, have the conversations about bringing in another school. But based on the information that was presented at the last presentation and today's presentation, financially, it makes sense with our student enrollment at Valley Academy, them using 2/3 of the building, and then 1/3 of the west wing will be used for commercial, which will also bring in some revenue for that. And for that reason, I will support the move.
Okay, I think this is a really important decision, and it's also good, I think, even if it's repetitive, for board members to explain what they see as the justification for it. Human-wise, it's not been an easy time at all, changing from 7 to 6 conventional elementary schools. I believe that it was a necessary and actually beneficial, if you trade the costs of alternatives, decision that was taken, but doesn't mean that it was easy. Valley provides an alternative form of education that has a number of people who are their constituents. It's important. And this is something this district, I think, does very well. It provides not just one size fits all education, but provides alternatives. The Valley site at the moment, I believe, is long-term inefficient for a variety of reasons. So the Columbia site could serve multiple education purposes. And that's part of its value. It includes a better home for Valley. And so that looks like it makes sense. Important checks that have been taken. Is this a safely move for moving Valley into Columbia? That's been done. Is it suitable for Valley? And if we check the cost, yes. I'm going to qualify that and say at this stage, if we have an additional tenant in Columbia, there will be other complications that we need to deal with, whether they're tenant expenses or other aspects of it. The Valley site then becomes surplus with the potential to help an area of great need, which is our absence of a capital expense funding. So when you put those together, and giving direction from the board to the cabinet and the district to go ahead with this procedure, to put it in the context of logic and justification, and also the human element, I think that's really important.
Yeah, and without repeating what Martin said, I think that's the same analysis that I've sort of done. Is the district has satisfied me, at least on the cost. We knew it was inefficient to run 7 elementary schools, so this was, system-wide, it makes sense. Where we're at with enrollment, it makes sense. The human aspect of it is very hard, and I think we're working through this plan. The intent is to keep the spirit of Columbia alive in some fashion to be able to do this. And so I think the best way to ensure that happens is by having it remain largely under our control through another one of our programs. So, I see the potential. I'm pleased that there's not a large cost associated, at least at this point, with an expansion. I know it is the concept of moving one school into another, but when you see that it takes an entire capital outlay off of our system and potentially opens it up for more funding, other opportunities, things like that, it does make sense. And the different nature of Valley as compared to a school that has to operate full-time with all the staff makes sense for the area, for the facility, for the future opportunities. So I appreciate the research and the work that's gone into it. And to me, it's a reasonable decision that I can support.
And I'll add, kind of echo what my colleague said, is that, first of all, thank you for, presentation tonight, presentation at the 211 meeting, at the 114 meeting. So we've been kind of like talking about this for a while. So we've been able to kind of present this as an idea. And I think it really helped me understand the benefits of transitioning Valley into the old Columbia building. Cause I think that there's a lot of reasons why, like, especially like you said, when realizing the costs that we weren't seeing the costs that we thought could potentially be there. But I think while this is the right path for the district, I really want to acknowledge that this is kind of the final step in the closure that we had last year. And, you know, that's really hard for a lot of the former staff and the former students, seeing that it's kind of done. So, you know, I think that I know there's gonna be a lot of sadness from that group. But I've talked to the people I've talked to in the different schools where the Columbia staff and students have landed. It seemed like it's been a good fit. And I know that, you know, new places aren't the same as places you called home, but sounds like people are making a good go of it. And I'm hopeful that this new chapter begins and we're still going to have the building be a place of joy and of learning. So I think it'll be a nice continuation of the legacy of Columbia.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone. Well said.
So those all in favor of adopting the plan as presented, say aye.
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 Those opposed? All right, motion carries. So our next order of business is the superintendent report.
Excellent. Thank you. Let's see, mock trial amazingness. Just excited about the mock trial regional championships. Sounds like Wenatchee High School took first and second place respectively. And Nico Kitas, who we've seen here many times, giving the ASB report, earned Best Overall Attorney Award, and they're off to districts in Tacoma at Pierce County Courthouse, March 14th through 16th. So coming up. I also wanted to share a little bit. March 7th, last Friday, was a professional development day for the Wenatchee School District. And just sharing out with our school board that our staff engaged in some incredible professional development while the students had the day off. So we want to make sure to signal to our community while students are home, teachers are planning and they're preparing. We had groups working together in grade bands. We also had groups working together in job-alike groups and PLC teams driving the work. I learned about explicit genre writing to specific classroom instruction, essential strategies, planning and reflection, and priority standards, scope and sequence work. And I was able to hang out with the 4th and 5th grade team as they were working through the narrative writing process and sharing the celebrations of student writing. So it was very cool. They also covered the 6 principles of writing, the cognitive demands of writing, the power of routines in the classroom, consistent academic language, and the brain dump, as well as a gradual release of responsibility to the students. It was very powerful. One of the things that stood out in my mind is when they were sharing different writing samples. It was the 4th and 5th graders, but they were sharing writing samples of what the 1st graders were writing. And the feeling in the room was, holy cow, these students are going to be coming to us in subsequent years with this level of writing. And there was some palpable excitement in the room of that. So it was very, very cool. One thing that I mentioned to Heidi and to Amber is that we need our school board members to see the professional development in action. So as we're doing learning walks this year, we can maybe have some intentional and focused invitations for professional development in years to come, because it was just really, really good. Also, I was fortunate enough to go to Friends and Family Night for our Applettes and our Color Guard last Thursday. Super fun evening. It was actually shorter than I was like, we need more. It was about a half an hour. And we saw the JV and varsity Applettes team and our Color Guard shared their award-winning Ahoy routine as they're headed off to Portland here very soon. So it was really good quality. I loved it. It was great. I'm hitting Romeo and Juliet on Thursday. I've heard so many great things already about our students' performance. And so I'm excited to see some of our seniors in their final drama performance this year, and some of our superintendent advisory council students as well. And then Rock and Read across Mission View. You might have seen the pictures last week. I was able to go and watch a little bit before Diana got there. We actually passed each other as I was leaving and she was coming, but black t-shirts, leather pants, wigs, sunglasses. There was lots of things happening for Rock and Read. And it was fun. I walk into the cafeteria and there's a parent with this giant amp and guitar, and he is just jamming, right? And everyone's eating breakfast and he's just laying on the strings. It was pretty cool. So that was fun. We also have knowledgeable students who we saw last time we were together. They're going to be hosting the state tournament at Wenatchee High School on March 22nd. I'll have a chance to meet with them and share some words. And then, of course, our ribbon cutting next week that I'm excited about. So anyway, there it is, superintendent report.
Board communication, Maria, want to start?
I don't have much, robotics. Somebody help me out here. They did their little robot jam. And I don't think they didn't place, but they were they were successful in their showing. Foothills Robotic. The other one, I got to volunteer with Special Olympics a couple weeks ago and love the partnership between the state organization and our local schools. Love seeing our students out there volunteering, our sports med, and just children with parents volunteering, spending their Saturday and Sunday helping out the community. So.
Martin?
Lots of things on the go, actually. And I'll try not to repeat, but I am going to go back to Appalettes and the color guard. Friday was absolutely awesome, both of them. And no wonder the Appalettes took district by storm. And to see the color guard performance, they actually did very well at the regional in Portland. And the next regional will be in Wenatchee the same weekend as Mariachi on the 29th in the high school gym. And that will be an awesome day of seeing not only Wenatchee schools, but other schools from all around the state. And so that was really, really sharp and really, really impressive. Romeo and Juliet also, kind of fun to have two generations of directors with the Atwood family showing, younger one showing other aspects of it and the traditions we have there. With respect to drama, there's a huge amount of parental and family effort that goes into supporting the drama. If you're a producer, you've got a quarter job for a year. And we really need to pay tribute to that. And that tradition was a great show. And people do that. Sadly, we talked about obsolete computers in Pioneer and the HVAC and things like that. Where are obsolete computers all over the drama situation in the high school? The back quarter is still dark, looking for somebody to fix a board and make that work. We do need a capital fund for that kind of thing. James Wallace is working every point with friends who can come in and create ancient things. That kind of stuff goes on. But I just want to say that capital fund, extracurricular, I'm glad the softball students talked about how important that is. It's the lifeblood of the district in many, many ways. The other thing from an economic and social point of view, all of these events and the softball, they're our entertainment and tourism. And so the Chamber of Industry should be delighted that the school district is providing such great stuff. This weekend on Saturday at the museum, the Regional Art Show will have their formal opening. Don Collins actually is coordinating it this year, former arts teacher. That's an awesome one. A Beauty of Bronze will be celebrated at the same time. And that's regional for the whole of North Central Washington. And you could go on. And then on a different scale, James Lehman was in Pioneer with the you're right, Association of Washington School Leaders. He is an absolutely awesome person. I've listened to and seen him teach adults at WASDA, and I've seen him on Pioneer's gym with about 3 middle schools. And bringing that kind of person into the district just really stimulates growth at that level. He's specializes in creating a sense of leadership in younger students. So yeah, I went on for a while, but there's an awful lot that goes on. Thank you.
All right, I'll just give a shout out to some future Panthers, especially because I know one of the athletic director, Principal Anderson's projects this year was to help grow AAU a little bit more for the benefit of our future programs. And so this last weekend, my daughter's 4th grade team took 2nd place in state in the gold bracket for the AAU basketball. And it was wonderful because it is such a parent-led organization and it's parents from our high school and our athletic community that helps at the high school. And so I know that's been a really intentional focus this year is getting the gyms moving with kids for our future programs. So it was great to see them out there supporting them and the future of our basketball looking pretty strong. So that was exciting.
And it came down to like the last second,
The
like,
last two awful calls that resulted in free throws, and it's a team from Idaho, and don't even get me started. But no, they far exceeded our expectations. It was great for the coaches to take a risk on them, given their growth and development, and we couldn't have done it without all the gym time that they were allowed, even though it was a lot of moving around, and the parents from AAU that went out to support all, other teams there as well, but to see recognizable faces, it's support that the program needs. And I liked seeing that some of it was driven from top down. So, yeah. that was-
Also, good luck to our Wenatchee boys that are going to state this weekend. I know there's our 7th grade team, 6th grade team. You guys have anybody going, Kelly? No? Okay. 7th grade and 6th grade for sure will be in Spokane, representing Wenatchee.
I'm just gonna make Martin go last on all these from now on. I just want to say sorry for missing the last meeting, but I wanted to echo all my colleagues said at the meeting. Thank you to the community for supporting the levy. I think all these extracurriculars are so important to the district, and I really think it's great to see the turnout that and the support. And also thank you to Miranda for stepping up and being president for a day.
yeah, that's right.
So I think that is everything. We have an executive session, so the school board will now recess into executive session for a period of 30 minutes until 7:51 PM to evaluate the qualifications of an applicant for public employment or to review the performance of a staff member and to consider the minimum price at which real estate will be offered for sale or lease when public knowledge regarding such consideration would cause a likelihood of decreased price. Pursuant to district policy number 1410 and RCW 423110, this discussion will be closed to the public. The school board is not expected to take final action following the executive session. So 7:51, go. Okay, we're returning back to general session and I'm adjourning the meeting. Have a good night.